Welcome back, everyone. We hope you all enjoyed the finals weekend welcome and Karen Stevenson's awesome keynote address yesterday. The video from that event has been posted in the schedule on Socio, so you can enjoy it again. We're excited to have all of you here today for our Morehead-Cain Experience presentation. You're in for a real treat because you're going to hear about everything the Morehead-Cain program offers from those who know from firsthand experience, the current scholars. I'm pleased to introduce Julie DeVoe, our Director of Scholar Advising, to get us started today. Julie.
Thank you, Megan. My name is Julie, and I am so thrilled to be with you today and have virtually met many of you on Zoom already this week. As part of the Scholar Advising team, we have the great privilege of working with the Morehead-Cain Scholars every day and implementing our flagship program, the Summer Enrichment Program. Today, you're going to hear from scholars about their Morehead-Cain experiences. We'll begin with 5 short talks featuring our different programs, starting with the International Gap Year and then moving through the Summer Enrichment Programs in order. Outdoor Leadership, which takes place prior to your first year, Civic Collaboration the summer before your second year, and Global Perspective the summer before your junior year, and Professional Experience the summer before senior year. You'll probably hear of a few other Carolina and Morehead-Cain stories and experiences along the way. These stories will provide an example of what our programs can offer, but they're just one person's unique story. After the speeches, you'll get to hear from 13 more scholars who will share their stories in breakout rooms on Zoom. No two Morehead-Cain stories are exactly the same, and we hope that you get the sense today of how scholars get to chart their own pathways here in our program. So without further delay, we're going to jump right into hearing from the scholars. To keep this a bit more engaging for this virtual setting, we challenged our 5 scholar speakers to deliver their talks today in the Pecha-Kucha style. Pecha-Kucha is a storytelling method developed in Japan that encourages more showing and less telling. The scholars will each have 15 slides with 20 seconds per slide to tell you about their summer experiences. It's snappy, it's fun, and these scholars have totally risen to the challenge. We hope that you show them some love in the comments with appreciations, questions, and otherwise engage with them and each other during the talks. We want this to be engaging for you. So let's begin. I'm going to start by introducing our first speaker, Emil Charles, from the class of 2024. Originally from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Emil attended the North Carolina School of Science and Math and will now share his experiences from his gap year.
Thank you, Julie. So when I first got to Cape Town, I had no idea how to fit in. I had a hospital intern job, but often got out early and had entire afternoons off. I left home looking for a change, and now, during the city's vibrant spring, I too felt filled with new life. I was realizing that a year abroad meant more than just time away from home. It was space to think about who I was and who I wanted to grow into. I learned at first that growth is small. While not all that great, cashew chicken stir fry was the first meal I actually felt proud of. From there, my cooking skills grew easily, but at other times, growth felt hard. I was navigating language, cultural, and racial barriers, forcing my way across them and not being sure how to get through others. At the hospital, I wasn't given much of an orientation, plopped in with students years ahead of me. I was often assumed to be of colored descent or to translate from Zulu or Xhosa I didn't know. I got real-life experiences as the liaison between doctors, children, and families, and began to build my foundational skills in public health. My learning consisted of a lot of medicine, mainly bones, joints, and chronic pains, but that wasn't all. I learned how to enjoy my personal time too, getting the best sleep of my life, catching up with new and old friends, and falling endlessly into great books. I celebrated South Africa's Rugby World Cup win, something that hadn't happened in over 20 years. On the day of, I borrowed a friend's Protea shirt and wore the country's national flower proudly. Continuing to meet people, I made sure to take down names and numbers. This helped. I caught invites to weekends away and even family vacations. The most beautiful of these was to the West Coast National Park, finding myself in a kayak on a white sand beach with flamingos I didn't know existed in this part of the world. My time in South Africa also offered me space for cultural and historical learning. I spent time in Johannesburg, visiting the Constitutional Court and Apartheid Museum. There was a reckoning that had seemed to occur. The evidence was everywhere. Things weren't perfect, but I still came to better understand where I was and what this incredible country had to show the world. Coming home for just a month in between, I squeezed in a trip to my father's Caribbean home. I connected with deep roots that had long been sleeping, but these seemed to wake right up with roadside corn and daily breakfast plantains. I felt stronger in my identities, but was still spun around by the diversity of the globe. Those few weeks in Grenada were amazing. It was warm, calm, and felt like a home that missed me too. I took trips to some of my dad's childhood sites, his mother's grave, and the fruit farm he's managed for as long as I can remember. I learned how to be back with family and now live with my new life experiences. I plan to leave in a few weeks from Malawi and wasn't quite sure how to prepare. Back across the Atlantic, and at times with junior scholar Sita Tayal, I started yet another new routine. I was working at UNC Project Malawi, a global health collaboration between UNC Chapel Hill and the Malawi Ministry of Health. I live with people not only from Malawi, but from around the world too, Kenya, the Netherlands, India, and Italy. Again, I could see public health systems in the works and got to engage with them fully. Unfortunately, my time was cut short and I was forced to leave Malawi with unresolved feelings and friendships. Though, despite my early departure, the most important part of a gap year still happened, a crazy hair decision. During the late night before my flight, I spontaneously got dreadlocks, and when my dad picked me up from the airport, he barely recognized me. I thought it was more than just my hair that had changed. At home, I tried to stay plugged in as things shut down, but instead was forced to brood inside with depressing news as a constant background. The public health nightmare didn't seem real, and I knew that all my spaces of months past had drastically changed. I was stuck as the pandemic continued to rage and the country's tensions further boiled. On May 25th, I remember hearing George Floyd's name for the first time. In the days after, I attended protests in Raleigh and Durham. It didn't seem like Chapel Hill was rallying, so I decided to, and soon helped fill the streets with people and their voices. My organizing work came about organically, but I soon realized that if I was the one creating the flyers and demanding change, I had to follow up with the harder work too. This activism and protesting continued, filling the rest of my summer and introducing me to new ideas, people, and parts of myself. As I settled on my UNC fall plans, I realized there was a world in which I hadn't done all the things I did over the last year. I never expected myself to be in a South African hospital, on an international health team, or at the front of a march, but my year off had given me time for it all. Now, looking back on my gap year and forward to the rest of my time in college, I feel amazed. I recognize that there is immense potential and opportunity, but when fully supported by the Morehead-Cain Foundation, this only becomes more profound. Though, before I can even speak on the actual 4 years in the program, it was during my time before that my passion and skills were truly developed. After my first week in Cape Town, I wrote the following for a Morehead-Cain reflection. This past week is certainly the start of a journey, and I'm continuously learning things throughout. All of these lessons are shaping my experiences, and the more I learn, the more I'm able to find and be at home. I chose to take a gap year to learn and think about myself deeply, to take a break from the whirlwind of school and pressures of traditional education. I urge you all too to think about how and why you should grow. How can you develop into the person you want to be? What do you need to push you? If you're anything like me, an international gap year might just be the answer. Next, I'd like to introduce Kartik Tyagi from the class of 2023. Originally from Cary, North Carolina, Kartik attended Enloe Magnet High School and will now share his experiences from his outdoor leadership summer with Outward Bound.
Great. Thanks so much, Emil. That was amazing. So for me, I found myself on the night of July 6, 2019, going to bed really anxious. I hadn't ever been hiking or camping for a long amount of time. But there I was thinking, how am I going to go alpine backpacking for over 3 weeks in the North Cascades up in Washington State? And so in the weeks before, I thought, let's put in some work. Let's prep. Let's break into those boots. Let's go on a couple of hikes. And yes, let's finally shave off my mustache and start to grow out my beard. I don't know who let me grow out a mustache. But nevertheless, I woke up on that next morning with a unique routine of lasts. The last time in over 3 weeks, I would sleep in a bed. The last time I would shower. Yep, shower. For over 3 weeks. The last time I would eat fresh, home-cooked food. But it was the first day on our journey where we would begin our trek for the next few weeks, where we only had to cover around 5 miles. Didn't seem that bad, but it took us around 7 hours. And even then we stopped at a site that had been covered by fallen trees and many barriers. Day one was when I knew this was going to be a challenge. It's when it became a reality for me. On day one alone, we had crossed an unexpectedly huge body of water, treated blisters, and provided first aid to nearly all of our team, and continued hiking until after dark to find a campsite that didn't end up being as suitable as we thought. I learned a lot on that first day because from there I came face to face with the challenges that this in fact was going to be tough. So let's make the most of it while I am here in the middle of the wilderness, mapping my journey for close to a month. So with this mindset, I started noticing some small things as the days passed. As the days passed, I was able to take on more with greater ease. By the end, I was able to really enjoy the experience and worry less about being able to continue onwards with such a heavy pack on my back. Coming into this experience, I felt many things. I was nervous, curious, and excited all at once to take on something new. Coming out of the experience, I hiked along the Andrews Pass Trail and the Robinson Pass Trail in the Pasayten Wilderness for over 3 weeks, hiking close to 100 miles and summiting peaks and mountains with some of the just most beautiful views I have ever seen. It was through this experience that I camped out through snow, through sleet, through rain, as well as through mosquitoes, mice, mountain goats, as you can see, as well as bears, in a distance, of course. Reflecting on my outward bound alpine backpacking experience, I'll always remember the memories that our group had, the jokes and riddles that we shared, the hot dinners, the views. I'll remember the lengthy discussions we had, hiking till dark to reach the final pickup site a day earlier than we were actually supposed to, hiking over 15 or so miles on that day, maybe even more. I'll remember napping in the beautiful meadows filled with vibrant flowers and the sun shining down, the views next to Cathedral Mountain and Cathedral Lake, as we all took a dip in that lake to cool off. I'll remember the delicious, at least at the time, dehydrated and backcountry cooking. But perhaps most of all, I'll remember the extent to which I developed through hiking, climbing, contributing, and reflecting. But none of this would have been possible without the Morehead-Cain Scholarship. The ability to partake in an experience I never thought I would. And I want to share with you all something that I, just recently recalled about my journey. As part of my trip, I really took some time to reflect internally and write about my experience. And so I recall writing that you spent day 2 thinking why you signed up for the course. At the resupply point halfway through the course, you and the group ate a little too much chocolate. But as the days passed, you learned so much. Remember how good it felt to simply have a warm meal late at night before struggling to get in your precious sleeping bag. Be grateful, be thankful, and most of all, always keep challenging yourself. And so while you all engage and experience and learn about the amazing experiences Morehead-Cain offers, I hope that this sheds some light on the opportunities that the scholarship offers to develop not only professional goals, but also some of your personal ones. I want to thank you all for your time, wishing you all the best in this process. And if you have any other questions, related or not, always feel free to reach out or stop by my breakout session later today. Next, I'd like to introduce Michael Dorgan from the class of 2022, originally from Huntersville, North Carolina. Michael attended William Amos Huff High School and will now share a little bit about his experiences from his civic collaboration summer.
Thanks, Kartik. Hello, everyone. So we are going to talk a little bit about Civic Collab. So most of you probably aren't super familiar with what Civic Collab is, but it's a team-based internship, and it's focused on an emerging issue, generally within a mid-sized city. So the way it works is you're matched with a team and a host organization so you can contribute to existing efforts within the city. It's an amazing learning opportunity like nowhere else on UNC's campus. The key challenge, however, isn't necessarily the problem that you're faced with. It's dealing with the ambiguity of not knowing where to start. The key challenge is how to navigate this unfamiliar place and unfamiliar professional context. Here's my team on our first day of work. This isn't to say that we went in unprepared. The foundation did a great job of prepping us before we went in with a boot camp here in Chapel Hill. You can see that we spent our fair share of time making some infographics and preparing ourselves to handle a pretty intense problem. This problem was the circular economy. For those of you who aren't familiar, circular economy is the idea of taking waste outputs from one process and using them as inputs in another process to reduce the amount of space taken up in landfills and overall carbon footprint. Memphis has a pretty big issue with this. The economy is very linear, which means a lot of waste ends up in landfills. And if you've ever walked along a roadside in Memphis, it's pretty likely you've seen some discarded tires. So anyway, here we are on the roadside in Memphis, day one on our front porch. We lived together, we worked together, but we were a team of 4 that didn't know each other too well before this day. We were matched together with care by the foundation based on our personal and professional interests, and we got to know each other really well. And that bonding began with a fateful story. We went to see the Peabody Ducks, if anyone's ever been to Memphis. They're some famous ducks. And then we went to explore the downtown. We walked into the open gates of the minor league baseball stadium, and we just sat there having a deep, kind of emotional conversation for the first time, getting to know each other. Then disaster struck, and we found ourselves locked in to the baseball stadium. Logically, as 18-year-olds, we decided the most smart way to handle this would be to climb over the 8-foot cast iron fence in our professional business attire. But that was the first problem we ended up solving together. So it was kind of a jumping point into the next few weeks, which were full of brainstorming. We were 4 college kids, and we were faced with this institutional, systemic problem, and we had 8 weeks to do it. And initially, we were kind of stuck in the mud. We wanted to fix everything, and we couldn't focus in. But ultimately, we ended up, with help from our host organization, deciding to focus on a project called the Sustainable Shelby Advisory Council. So we wanted to make change by contributing as best we could to existing efforts within the city of Memphis. And the Office of Sustainability already had a climate action plan. So we thought we could bring together private companies, citizen activists, and government officials to help streamline and channel their efforts towards carbon footprint reduction. We ended up presenting this to the mayor and other city stakeholders. And the Office of Sustainability is still working to implement aspects of our research after we left. So we're still moving in the right direction there. However, not all of the learning was professional. A lot of it was personal. I learned some skincare. We taught Tracy, one of our group members here, how to not play cornhole like a grandma. And we also learned that you can buy hermit crabs on Amazon.com, and we became hermit crab parents, and really learned how to socialize well and productively and establish safe boundaries. We also got to explore the city. If anyone's never been to Memphis, like I hadn't, it's an amazing place. We were able to tour the Civil Rights Museum, which is in the hotel that Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in, and is an amazing museum, an amazing experience. We drove through Tennessee and picked peaches in rural Tennessee, and we played a lot of Catan. We also were able to connect with other scholars and alumni throughout the summer. You can see the bottom 3 people here are members of the team from the Civic Collaboration team from Louisville. We met up with them in Nashville one weekend and had a great time exploring the city. We also were able to get professional connections from various alumni in Memphis who were able to help set us up on a great path. But not all of our professional connections were from the Morehead. Here's me giving an awkward hug to our boss, Suzanne. She was incredible, and this is on our last day. She has provided professional and personal guidance to us even since we've left the summer. So it just goes to show you that Civic Collab has lasting effects. And so yeah, this growth that we all experienced this summer was personal, interpersonal, and professional. It changed my life, and it transformed 4 strangers into a family. So I really hope that y'all are as excited about Civic Collab as I was. And if you have more questions about Memphis or circular economy or anything, please come find me in the Human Library. All right, so now I'd like to introduce Lainey Henley from the class of 2021, who's originally from High Point, North Carolina. Lainey attended High Point Central High School and will now share her experiences from her Global Perspective Summer.
Thanks so much, Michael. That was great. Hello, everyone. So really quick, this is me, my finalist weekend, coming to UNC with all of my experiences and stories, just like I know each of you all has. Unfortunately, I can't hear them all today, so it will just have to do for me to just introduce myself. But promise me you will introduce yourself to me one day soon. So for the purposes of today, all you need to know is that I'm the big ideas girl. I mean, think of the most far out thing that you've ever wanted to do and let me know and we will find a way. I've really learned to what Morehead calls champion the journey, but I call it the climb. I regret to say that I'm starting to realize that maybe my references are becoming dated, but truly the climb really does embody the story I'm sharing with you today. Most all of taking on these incredible summers is the openness to changing plans and pursuing a sliver of a dream in your mind. So coming into college, I was a business and math double major, but my main goal in life was that I wanted to help people. But by the end of my sophomore year, my business classes were becoming difficult for me to connect with. And as my Global Perspective Summer approached, my only ideas were centered around thinking about the Foreign Service and a discrete math study abroad program in Stockholm, Sweden, a city made completely of islands. The Global Perspective Summer is focused on designing your own project centered around learning from a global point of view about an area of interest. So with that in mind, this study abroad program would allow me to see parts of the world I could only ever dream of and complete a course required for my major with a passionate UNC professor. I knew that I wanted to couple this study abroad program experience with whatever else I could plan for my Global Perspective Summer. And then I made one of the most important Google searches of my life. The ambassador to Spain went to UNC. I know what, I think I fell out of my chair. In that moment, I kid you all not, I Googled the phone number for the US Embassy to Spain and I called it. As you may have imagined, this number was not for the prospective, bright, and eager potential interns to call. This was for those of us who lose our passports abroad or run into a pesky issue with the foreign government. Needless to say, the press 5 for more options was not hinting at a potential internship in Spain. So I went into full sleuth mode, looking up the ambassador's major, foundations he set up at UNC, any professors in the departments in which he studied who may know him, but to no avail. I sat down in the office with one of the Morehead-Cain advisors with no plan and only a far-out idea still circling in my head. As it turns out, my advisor knew someone who might have a connection to the ambassador, and I ended up getting an email. I sent Ambassador Buchan an email with my resume, skills I had, and what I was looking for, and he responded with some ideas and proposals of projects for me. One of them was something I could have never anticipated. The embassy was hosting a robotics camp in the south of Spain, a city called La Línea de la Concepción, where they were partnering with a community organization to increase the amount of STEM education for middle and high school aged girls in the Gypsy community. These girls are traditionally taken out of school at very young ages in order to get married and start a family, usually taking jobs in positions that don't require a high school education. This program would teach local teachers in the surrounding area how to teach robotics courses to empower specifically Gypsy girls to stay in school and have the encouragement to pursue STEM fields. I was a girl in STEM who was encouraged at a young age to pursue my interests despite the stereotypes of women in STEM. And although my access to education was greater and my barriers were smaller, I felt emboldened in that moment to work for the same opportunity for other girls. My project would be to learn first as a woman in STEM, taking the math course in Sweden, and then work to understand the obstacles and potential ways to surmount them in the Spanish Gypsy community. The past 3 photos that I just showed you were taken with some of my closest friends that I made in La Línea. Because I was 20, I was really close in age to many of the teachers as a part of the program, and they became some of my closest friends. This was a huge comfort to me because I was living in a place I had never even heard of, the Rock of Gibraltar. I crossed the border daily from Gibraltar into Spain, and my final deliverable from the program was a full report to submit to the State Department. And when I say all of those words, it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to be completely honest. I was winging it most days. I mean, does this girl look like she knows what's up? I was learning every day about culture, language, and what it means to be in the Foreign Service. One thing you all will learn in college is that closed doors are valuable and lead to open ones. Although I decided the Foreign Service wasn't for me, I did realize on a completely different train of thought that I wanted to put that initial desire of helping people to work through a career in medicine. And now I'm a senior looking to pursue medical school and working out a gap year plan. I can only hope that my new journey to medicine will be as curvy and unique a climb as my global perspective summer. Thank you so much. And now I'd like to introduce Anna Ilyasova from the class of 2022. She's originally from Mount Airy, North Carolina, and Anna attended Mount Airy High School and will now share her experiences from her professional experience summer.
Thanks, Lainey. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna, and I'm so excited to share a little bit with you about two of my Morehead-Cain experiences. One of those is my professional experience SCP, and also about my stop-out year abroad. But in order to explain why the SCP felt so important to me, I want to first share a story with you from when I was in high school. So before I went to college, my mom and I would visit her hometown village in Ukraine each summer. It's a really small rural village called Smotrich, and to this day, the roads to get there are barely paved. But on one particular visit, whenever I was in high school, I remember that my uncle casually mentioned to me that a nearby region in Ukraine had a huge measles outbreak that year. And I started to think, like, did you really say measles? Isn't measles a problem of the past? As it turns out, in that time, rural areas of Ukraine, like this village, fell behind on their vaccination schedule to as low as only 42% of eligible kids because of an ongoing war with Russia and other factors. So with fewer children getting their MMR vaccine, measles was becoming a problem again, despite the fact that it's fully preventable. And I remember at the time feeling so shocked to hear about all of this. And I started asking a lot of questions, like, why were people not vaccinating their children? What were the barriers that prevented them from doing it? Or why did they choose not to do that? And who or what was to blame for all of this? And so a few years later, when I was in your shoes during finals weekend in 2017, that's me on the right in this picture, I had an opportunity to attend a talk by an alum of the scholarship named Dr. Bruce Gellin, who happens to be an expert on vaccines and was speaking to a group of us that day. And after this talk, I still had more questions, so he kindly shared his email with me, and I've been pestering him with even more questions ever since. So then flash forward a few years later, when I was a sophomore, Dr. Gellin connected me to his colleague at UNICEF, who was working on a social science in vaccine policy topic at the time. This connection turned into my SCP, where I spent the whole summer learning about vaccine hesitancy. I loved this work, and I loved living in Copenhagen for the summer, except for when I couldn't remember where I locked my bike, and this was not fun. But whenever I was there, I had the chance to help write the first draft of a vaccination demand promotion guidance for countries in Europe and Central Asia, and I helped to research vaccine procurement for low and middle income countries. But during all of this, being in the room with meetings with very impressive people was really scary for me at the beginning. I felt like an imposter when I, having grown up in a really rural, small town in North Carolina, had the chance to talk to these very inspiring, knowledgeable public health officials abroad. I felt like, well, this. And at some point, I'm sure I probably tried to make lame jokes to break the ice, which I really wouldn't recommend if you're in a meeting with people and you're feeling imposter syndrome. But when I think about that summer, it was definitely the Morehead-Cain community that made it possible. Not only because this is how I was able to get my dream internship, but also because the support I got from foundation staff and mentors was so valuable to me. Because around the same time, I was also considering the idea to take a stop-out year, which was a year away from undergrad that directly followed this internship. The problem, though, was that this idea, taking a year off of school in the middle of my degree, was exactly my immigrant family's biggest nightmare for me. And I remember that I told everyone that this was just a gap year, and they replied with, sure, that's what everyone who drops out of college says. And a lot of people told me I was making a huge mistake. But numerous mentors, and especially Julie, one of the amazing advisors at the foundation, were so excited and encouraging about my idea to take a year off. Did I have a job lined up at the time? No. And did it take over 30 applications for me to get that first job? Yes. But Julie and the other Morehead-Cain mentors encouraged me to trust in the process and to keep applying for internships that I found interesting. So in the end, I took the stopout year and I spent it as an intern at the UN Agency for Refugees in Geneva, at the Public Health and Geopopulation Services International in Laos, and finally as a writing consultant on a joint UNICEF and World Health Organization project on vaccine promotion. Ultimately, taking a stopout year was the best decision I've personally ever made, and I learned a lot. It was a lot of fun, and I feel so thankful to have traveled to beautiful places like this Buddhist temple in Laos before the pandemic hit. But my family did breathe a huge sigh of relief when I returned to UNC last year, because I had in fact not dropped out of school. And ultimately, I know that I would have never done either of those experiences, the internship or my stopout year, without the support of the Morehead-Cain. In many ways, these experiences both started during finalist weekend for me, when I was in your shoes. So I know that all of you are very successful, driven high school overachievers, and a few of you might even be my bosses someday. So I know for a fact that no matter what your college experience will look like, you will all do really great things. But with the Morehead-Cain and at Carolina, you'll be encouraged to go off of the beaten path, to consider doing things that scare both you and your family, but in a good way. So thank you so much for your time. I would love to chat with you more during breakout rooms, but I hope to also see you in line for COVID-19 vaccines when it's your turn to get one very soon. And most of all, I hope you enjoy your finalist weekend as much as I know I did. And now I will hand it back to advising.
All right. I hope that you guys enjoyed that. By the look of the chat, it seems like you did, but they can see what you're writing. So just know that all the break.
All right, I think we lost Julie there, but we're going to go ahead and proceed. So my name is Montez Thomas. I'm one of the scholar advisors, and just wanted to quickly share that if some of these amazing experiences that you just heard sound intimidating from our current scholars, don't worry, because you're in good company. Much of it sounds super intimidating to me as well. And that's why, in addition to the monetary benefits of the program, we also provide the resource of the Scholar Advising Team. We are here to help you navigate all aspects of your four-year journey at Carolina. We meet with scholars every day and scheduled advising appointments and walk-ins. And over the past year, we've been on more Zoom calls than we can count or would care to count. But at the end of the day, it's our mission to help you as you think about the big picture of your scholar experience and life at Carolina, integrating all of your different experiences and helping process what they are teaching you about yourself and the world. Above all, our goal of the program is to help you accelerate along the path that you're on, as winding as it may be, and giving you the tools and experiences along the way to help you grow as leaders on this campus and in your future endeavors. In addition to individual appointments with advising, the foundation has also established several affinity groups to allow scholars to form smaller communities for support and bonding. We currently have several cultural affinity groups, a first-generation college student group, and an LGBTQ scholar group. Lastly, the foundation encourages scholars, alumni, and staff to embrace 4 primary aspirations as a way of life. You should have received the copies of these aspirations with your welcome packet, but I would like to just highlight them for you briefly. The first is to inspire self-discovery. This expresses our desire to embrace stretch experiences as a way of life. The second is to catalyze connections. As a lifetime member of the Morehead-Cain community, we seek to encourage, support, and inspire and inform each other along our individual journeys. Next is to cultivate leadership. As a community, we seek to embody the character and values of strong leaders, including integrity, teamwork, humility, responsibility, and courage to do what is right, even in challenging situations. And lastly, we hope that you will champion the journey. Any destination we're seeking entails a journey that is equally valuable and inspired. We celebrate what's required to navigate obstacles, adapt to a changing world, move forward with mistakes, through mistakes, and pivot to new directions in pursuit of our passions and our goals. We hope you will embrace these aspirations as you continue your life journey. Now I'm going to turn it back to Julie.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I think I was frozen there. Hopefully everything's back online for me here. But I just wanted to sort of wrap up what you heard about the Summer Enrichment Program and the benefits of the Morehead-Cain program, just with a recap to make sure we sort of have made that clear. So really the idea of the Morehead-Cain program is built to be the experiential education complement to the academic experiences you have at Carolina. We recently updated our model to continue to provide the best possible enrichment experience for scholars, one that's going to help you grow as an individual and leaders into the next 50 years. We strive to provide unique experiences that together help develop your personal and professional skills. So as you heard from Kartik and Michael, the first 2 summers are the fundamental summers. Those really help you develop independence, curiosity, self-reliance, and resourcefulness. Outdoor Leadership Summer is partnered with the National Outdoor Leadership School and Outward Bound. And the Civic Collaboration Program is something that we've developed in-house at Morehead-Cain and find city hosts for you to work with across the country on civic projects. These summers are then the foundation for the self-design summers, where you can customize your experience to your personal interest, as you heard from Lainey and Anna. We work with scholars to plan a goal perspective experience that can include study abroad, internships, research, volunteering, or purposeful travel into a global experience that you design. The final summer then is a professional internship in the field of your choice. In addition to the summer program, we do offer funding for you to go on study abroad, either in a semester program or in the summer. And some people, like Lainey, use the summer study abroad as a springboard for their global perspective summer. We also offer what's called the Discovery Fund, which is a grant fund where you can apply for grants throughout the school year for summer projects, opportunities throughout the school year that allow you to say yes to enrichment experiences that you come across. And finally, the International Gap Year Fund, which is optional, but it is open to all first-year scholars to say yes to spending a year before you come to Carolina, traveling internationally and domestically through various educational pursuits. As you heard from Chuck yesterday, the pandemic did affect our Morehead-Cain program last year like it did everyone else. So most of the folks you heard from today, these summers happened in 2019. We had to suspend our SEP program in 2020, but virtually we were able to offer virtual opportunities to scholars and allow them to defer their summers to the summer after they graduate, to push that back 1 year. This year, we're now planning for all of our summer programs to be active in 2021, even despite COVID-19. We're working closely with safety consultants that will help us keep scholars safe while still having enriching summer experiences. So for your class, we will be offering the Outdoor Leadership Program with both Outward Bound and Knowles this summer. So now I'm going to pass it to Mallory, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the next part of our program.
Thank you, Julie. Hi, finalists. I'm so happy to be here with you today. As Julie said, my name is Mallory, and I'm one of the scholar advisors. It's my great privilege to work with Morehead-Cain scholars, planning their lives, planning their academics, their extracurriculars, and their summers. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what is about to happen after we get off this live stream. So we're going to head over in just a minute to the Zoom breakout rooms for the human library. A lot of our events follow this concept that we call 7, which is basically you get to know your one class as a Morehead-Cain scholar when you're a freshman. There are 3 classes above you that you also get to know. And then once you're a senior, there are 3 classes below you, which equals 7. So this is an opportunity to kind of start getting to know people in that way. So we've heard a few really great stories this morning from the scholars who spoke. And when we're in the human library, you'll have the opportunity to check out some more. So when we end the live stream, we will reconvene in the Zoom link for breakout rooms. You can find this link in the description of this event under the streaming screen, or you can join directly from the next event in your socio calendar. It's called the Morehead-Cain Experience Breakout Rooms, and we'll get those started at about 12:45. So Sophia is going to head over to the Zoom to get it started for you when we get going in a few minutes. She'll greet you when you arrive in the Zoom, and she'll help you with the instructions. So I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen now, so don't leave yet. So once we're in the Zoom, you will be able to choose the breakout room that you want to attend to hear another scholar's story and ask questions. I want to point you, like I did yesterday, to the PDF menu that's shared in the description below this live stream. That document has a list of all 18 breakout room hosts for each summer and the gap year. We ask the scholars to share about a particular summer that's listed, but you are more than welcome to ask them about their other summer experiences, their gap year if they took one, their whole Carolina experience, their campus involvement, how they leverage the Morehead-Cain network, classroom experience, their Discovery Fund projects, anything. So reference that menu to chat with folks who have topics, projects, locations that align with your interests. We definitely encourage you to try to make it through one host from each kind of summer, or any kind of combination that's interesting to you. We'll have about 4 rounds of breakout rooms, so you should be able to do that. Now, each breakout session will last about 8 minutes. When it's about a minute to go, you'll see a little blue banner pop up at the top of your Zoom screen telling you that you've got a minute left, and then when it's time to switch rooms. When it's time to switch, just go to the bottom and click choose another breakout room, and that menu will pop up again, and you'll be able to choose your next breakout room based on the scholar who you want to go visit. We'll do that several times. When the breakouts are over, we'll send a note to reconvene in the main Zoom room. All you have to do at that point is click the blue button that says leave breakout rooms, and you'll get sent right back to the main room. If you click the red button that says leave meeting, you'll leave the Zoom altogether. So don't do that. If you need any help at all, just message one of us in the chat. We are here to help you. No stress at all. This is going to be really fun. We're really looking forward to it. So we're going to sign off the live stream now, but if you have any questions, just reach out in the chat and go ahead and find your way over to the Zoom, and we'll see you there in a few minutes.